I'm here with Steven, the director of Werewolves, and I'm so excited to talk to you about this because I finally got to see it and I freaking loved it, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited you liked it.
Are you excited for the release this weekend?
Oh my God, I'm pumped. This is so cool. I've been making movies for a minute, so to actually get one to play theatrically across the country is, out of control. It's something you dream about when you're growing up and wanting to make movies. So to actually get the chance to have people call you from all over the country and say, "Hey, it's playing at my theater," or "I see the poster." I mean, it's just wild. It's really cool.
So I know you're no stranger to horror here. So what was it about tackling werewolves that really intrigued you? Because obviously we don't have enough werewolf films.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that is the big thing is that we don't have enough werewolf films. And if you follow me at all, you've known that werewolves have been something I love. I tried to make a werewolf movie way back in the day, couldn't get it off the ground, and then found this one and was lucky enough that I had made a few more films under my belt. So people obviously were like, okay, we think we can get this done. And it was really like the idea that the amount of wolves that I read that were going to be on screen was so insane that I had to try to figure out how to make this movie. That was one of the biggest reasons. I just hadn't seen this many werewolves in an independent movie trying to do what I was going to try to do with these things. So to me, that made it special, it made it unique, and that was something I wanted to try.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. And one of the things that I know you did with this film specifically is you used practical werewolves, which was incredible. So what was it? Why was it so important to you to have them be practical?
I'm an 80s kid. I grew up on practical. I grew up, seeing things on screen, puppeteering, guys in suits. You knew that's what it was,
Hmm.
but it was just something about it that makes it that more magical, I guess, more exciting when you see that. And obviously, like I'm not an anti-CGI guy by any means because we do have some great visual effects artists who worked on this movie. But I think to keep the movie as practical as possible was really important, so that way people felt like they were sort of transported back to an 80s, 90s nostalgia.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite like 80s film?
Yeah, I mean, look, my favorite 80s film is probably Evil Dead 2. It's easily something like I grew up like idolizing as far as Sam Raimi goes, wanting to make movies like that. And then if it's werewolves, The Howling was my go-to for werewolf stuff. So, and even in Fright Night, I love the transformation from wolf to back to human that Evil Ed does in the movie. So, for me, 80s movie is where my core sort of values.
That's awesome. And I know like you kind of already touched on this that you wanted to make these wolves different. So one thing that I really noticed in this film, and I don't think I've really seen this in other werewolf films, is that they aren't just typical werewolves hunting people. They seem like they have kind of like they're self-aware and they seem aware of their situations. Like one of the wolves splashes water on its face after getting pepper sprayed. So
Yeah.
what was like the decision on making them so smart?
I think the decision was to try to make them a little bit more intelligent than we've seen in the past, that they're not just feral and out to get you. Maybe they do lose the sense of themselves and people around them, but their smarts, their sort of ability to figure out things is still there. I think that just makes it more interesting, more fun. I also feel like if we are able to do more of these, you can really build on that sort of vibe and that world and really take it to the next level. I mean, I love movies like Planet of the Apes. I
Hmm.
really love the versions that came out recently. I liked the progression of the apes. So this was to me is like, could we start a progression here and where could they go from here? It just makes sense.
I think I would love to see a sequel and like dive into that lore a little bit more because I like are they like trapped as like the human side aware of like what they're doing or is it like just the wolf is just that much smarter?
We played it like the wolf is that much smarter, but we definitely felt like there has to be a version of this where people start to become aware and they're almost able to change back and forth at will and coming up in the later movies maybe and like so we definitely wanted to keep a human side, which is why there's sort of a struggle anytime they're dealing with the humans. There's still a struggle to deal with it. And so I feel like even from the human side, the struggle is, do you kill a wolf that could be your neighbor, right? Like
Hmm.
so there is those struggles that we're trying to get across, but it's such a fast-paced movie that you're trying to get all of those themes into a packed film. Not easy, but we did our best.
I know the thing just starts off and it doesn't let up, which is awesome. And one of the things I noticed in the opening sequence, when you have that big breakout sequence, the lights were exploding above, and I know Amy was running through. It looked like genuine fear coming from Katrina Law.
Yeah.
So was she actually like, was that all happening? Was she actually terrified?
So she was terrified because I didn't tell her it was going to happen. So like I told her that there would be some like, sound effects happening because we were going to
Hmm.
have our guys sound effects and that, she might need to wear some earplugs because they're going to let off some big sounds. I did not tell her that when it was going to happen or that sparks or anything like that was happening. So all of that we got in the first take because I just kept it because she did so great that we just kept going. But it was genuinely like she was in a no shit moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I could tell she was like freaking out. I was like, okay, this is legit. You left that in there.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, we all know Frank Grillo is one bad dude, but one of the things I loved about this movie is that the women also kind of get to show that they're just as tough, especially Il Finestradera's character. So, what was it about her addition that really stuck out to you?
I really liked the character in the script. I felt like she wasn't the typical, crying at home mom. Even though she does do some crying, it's
Mhm.
crying in a sense of that she's going to kick some ass. And so I think that to me felt, strong. I love characters like Ripley, who are really strong female
Mhm.
characters. So Sarah Connor. So to me, it was like, how can I combine those female kind of heroes and put her inside a house? And Ilfinish did so great with it. She had so much fun and she's just a strong human being in general.
Mhm.
So putting her on set, she just looks like she can handle herself. We know she just crushed it.
Yeah, both her and Katrina were awesome. And, you
Katrina's
know,
great.
speaking of Frank a little bit, what was it like working with him? And was he always the first choice to play the werewolf hunting Patty?
He was. I feel like I went to him right away because I knew what the tone of this movie was going to be already. As soon as I read it, I sort of knew where I wanted to go with it. And Frank always understands the assignment. He gets that when you're in a movie like this and you got these one-liners and you
Hmm.
have some things that are so zany that are happening, you need someone like Frank to be able to embrace it and sort of let the audience know we know what we have here. We know what we're doing. We're having fun. And Frank gets that. And so Frank was just one of those guys that was there. Like I said, understands the assignment. He's so great to work with. He's a pro. He's really great on set with everybody. So he's one of those motivators too. Everybody just sort of wants to rally behind Frank because he's having so much fun.
Yeah, you can tell everybody seemed to be having fun in this one. And I have to say that last shot with Frank was iconic.
He's so great. I mean, anytime I can get him to do those things, yes.
I'm sure he's like, let's just do
He
it.
was. He no, he was begging for it. Where can I do this?
It's for all the ladies out there.
All the ladies, they'll love it.
One of the scenes I absolutely loved, and I don't know if like this was intentional or not, but the scene under the car, when Wes and Amy, are basically just under the car and the werewolves are walking around it, it reminded me of Jurassic Park and the T-Rex trying to get the kids out from under. So was that intentional? Because there was a lot of
Yeah.
cool references.
100%. Jurassic Park is a reference throughout the movie a couple times,
Yep.
but like that one specifically is a big one we watched that I knew that I wanted to sort of figure out how to give it that same
Yes.
feeling, that same sort of vibe. And, the kids under the car is a great sequence in Jurassic Park. So
Hmm.
for me, it was a lot of fun. It was a little bit of, Signs as well. An M. Night movie that
Yeah.
I love that sort of thing is happening where they're kind of all around them. So I kind of looked at those movies and tried to, find a balance.
I have a love-hate relationship with Signs because it scared the living crap out of me when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I've been afraid of aliens ever since.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that really got me, and the performances are so good that, it's always a must-watch movie for me if I'm dealing with any kind of monsters or alien for sure. But we definitely watched it going into this movie.
That's awesome. Do you have like a favorite memory on set or when filming this thing?
Yeah, I think my favorite movie is when we brought Punk Princess Werewolf out for the first time to show
Yes.
everybody when she's in the middle of the street, and everybody, crew, cast, everyone just sort of gasped at like how cool this werewolf looked, and and to be honest, it was such a struggle to get her to screen because producers were fighting me the whole time, telling me that this is silly, it's not going to work, and I just kept telling them no, the audience is going to love this. And so I'm glad they believed in me to do it. But when we got her on set, people absolutely went ate batshit. They loved it.
I loved it too. I like when I saw that happen, I was like, oh, this is cool. And the piercings and everything, I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I love that it just like it stuck out.
Yeah, that
Um,
that was it. That was how do you get these things to be different? That's one of the things that I felt makes it work.
Last couple of questions here for you because I don't want to keep you too long. But as a director, I know you've done other genres. So what is it about horror that like really wants makes you to keep coming back to it? And is there a creature feature that you want to do next, or is there a horror title that you would like to try to do next?
I mean, what keeps me in love with horror is the fans.
Yeah.
I love horror fans. Horror fans are such a tight-knit community. They love their horror. They love their movies with all their heart. They go out, they support. You don't get that in any other genre. I feel like they're just a really great group of people that I've come to really respect,
Hmm.
enjoy, and to be honest, lean on a little bit to help get these movies out. So I really love the horror audience. For me, look, I know one thing that's been tackled a million times is vampires. But vampires is sort of been a soft spot for me that I really want to figure out how to make. So, I'm working with a couple people to try to figure out one, but it's a world that I want to figure out. Just got to find the right script.
Yeah, I'm sure you will crush that one too. I would love to see a vampire movie from you next.
That would be
It's fun.
fun.
It's funny you bring up all the horror fans, and I mean, I found a great community in this horror community. I know you were speaking with my friend Chuck. We have a podcast together. Your movie guy,
Yep, yep.
and like he's gonna spread the word on this thing just like me, and this thing will get to so many people over on TikTok, which is great.
We love it. I love
Uh,
it. I really appreciate you guys. To me, this is what it's all about and supporting indie cinema. It's a really cool thing.
is there anything you want the audience to take away from this movie, or anything you want them to know going into it?
I want them to go in expecting to have a blast, and I want them to come out feeling satisfied. I want them to come out feeling like we got the transformations we wanted, we got the wolves we wanted, we got the action we wanted. And I think if I can get those three things from people out when they leave the theater, I've done my job.
Well, I definitely think you nailed it. And last question I have here for you. I use movies as a way to connect with people. I think it's a great way to help bridge the gap and kind of help people understand who you are as a person better. So, what is one movie that you always recommend to people for them to understand you?
I mean, if you want to know me, you got to watch Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is my go-to movie. Everyone who watches that movie probably, if they know me, goes, "Oh, we know why this is Steven's favorite movie." It's just one of those films for me. I grew up seeing it was one of the first. It was the first rated R movie I ever saw in the theater, so it holds a special place. But it's also just sort of my style of filmmaking: kinetic, fun, popcorn. I loved it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time today and congrats on this movie. It's a freaking blast and
Thank
it
you.
doesn't let up.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.